And we are live. I'm going to pull this up in the Facebook group, and it looks like we're live.
Dang, I see it.
Boom.
It's been a minute.
Holla, it has been a minute. Dude, running into you and doing a live with you is almost as rare nowadays as finding Pikachu in the Bitteron Forest.
It is. This feels good, though. This feels good.
Does this feel right?
I think it feels right. I think it feels amazing.
There's just something about it.
It's what was the last time we...
All right, so welcome back to the group, man. It's been so long, and I'm so pumped to let me actually minimize the screen so we can get both feeds on here. You know, for the people that are not familiar with who you are, because you're no longer in my Facebook group banner.
And I've been banned for the past 3 months. I just now got access.
Is that really true?
No, that's not true.
Okay, that would have been so funny. So for people that don't know you, so guys, Temple and I have worked together. We used to work together. We have quite a history. We won't dive too much into the history of things because I want to get down to the nitty gritty. I want you guys to hear from Temple how he's been able to consistently shatter $100,000 months in sales, and how he's consistently able to keep breaking record sales months. I want to dive into the essentials, the details, whether it's from a mindset perspective or whether it's from a tactical standpoint, because they're both very different. And I want to hear from you on that. But I'm excited to welcome you guys. So Temple and I used to work together. You know, I first met Temple. I felt like he was learning more from me than sometimes vice versa. Now I learn more from him sometimes and vice versa. He's just really dove into so much detail in the psychology of the sale. The tactical stuff has obviously helped you, but I want to hear from you, and I know everyone else will want to hear from you, what those things look like, what's driven that success, and what your middle name is, because that's pretty much where you get your following, right? It's your whole name because it's so lit.
It is. I do sound like a prince. No, I don't. I'm not that egotistical.
Stay till the very end, and you'll hear Temple's middle name. And also, you'll get cool stuff and free.
Yes, cool stuff. Yeah, man, it's been interesting, right? Because when we first started, I was learning everything from you. I was closing deals, but I mean, very, very junior level.
I mean, do you consider $42,000 collected in month one junior level? I guess I just want to be clear what definition is on that, but anyway.
But that was split, right? I think I did 20 something.
We didn't have payment plans back then.
Yeah, we didn't have payment plans. It was just a $2,000 product. That product was lit though. But yeah, it's been cool to hop on calls and be able to share things with you that you haven't heard before. That's been super cool to see that progression, because you forget, right, when you're growing. And yeah, I'm excited to answer any questions people have on here on how I did that. My first month in sales, high ticket sales, because I don't consider 2,000 high ticket. I did $102,000 in my first month. So I think I got some things down, paid for a lot of mentors, did a lot of fucking reps, still paying for mentors, still doing reps. So I'm in the game, and I think it'd be fun to have someone who will be able to teach you that's still in the game, because obviously there's a lot of sales coaches out there. They're all brilliant and amazing, and I've even paid for them. But it's even cooler to hear information from someone that's still selling full time that can give you what's working right now.
I agree. So yeah. There's so many different ways we can go about this conversation. I know everybody on this live. So first of all, we have a few dozen people live. So show some love, fam. Like the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, definitely give us a thumbs up, because you're about to get some information and you'd be like, was I supposed to pay for this? So, and then drop a comment where you're watching from, because I love seeing how we bring the world together with, you know, the trainings that we do, because that's the whole goal, is to change the world through what we know. So there's a lot of different angles we can take on this, Temple. I know, let's talk about what I want to do is be able to help out every type of viewer on here. We have people that are brand new that want to get into this, people that are doing this and performing at a, you know, a fairly, you know, respectable level, that $20,000 to $50,000 a month range. And then we have people that are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. So what I'd like to do is to address each different level. So this way everybody can take something away from this. So guys, keep watching through the whole thing and you'll be able to take, you can take away one golden nugget. What I've come to learn is that if I could sit through something for an hour or buy something for like a low ticket, you know, 1 to 5 grand and learn one thing from that that can change my business and give me that 1 degree of change, I can turn that into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So just stay till the very end. You'll find that one golden nugget and make this video a win. So let's talk about starting out, Temple. What did that look like whenever you were getting into, you know, just getting into the space, which I know was like 2017-ish.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
Oh, when I first started selling.
Yeah, let's just get into when you first started selling, and then we'll progress the conversation.
Got you. When I first started, I was at a 9 to 5, and what I was trying to do was actually start an agency. So I saw an ad from a guy named Iman Gaji. So he gave me a shout out on the last live, so I'll give him a shout out on this one. He's an absolute killer.
So our boy Iman.
Yeah. So I saw an ad from him. I was like, this dude's living the life. Like, why is this 17-year-old living better than this 20-year-old at the time? So I pretty much dove into that and running an agency, and it wasn't working, wasn't popping off. And what I did is I decided I'd just do the burn the bridges approach, right? Where you just give up everything and go all in, which is can be incredibly stupid, but also incredibly rewarding. So I did that. I quit my job, didn't have any income coming in. I couldn't even pay rent the next month because my job didn't pay too well. So that said, I had to learn how to sell. And I quickly realized the moment my agency took off was I need to stop focusing on how to run ads, stop focusing on my marketing or like my branding. And I just need to learn how to like pick up the fucking phone and just call people and get their credit card. And it sounded so foreign to me that I could, and it was like a really hard limiting belief that I could just pick up the phone, call a stranger that didn't even know I existed 2 seconds ago, and then take his credit card over the phone. Like it was very hard for me to wrap, because it sounds crazy, because it fucking is. Like you're calling a stranger who is doing their life is hectic. Most likely they're not happy with their business or anything. They're stressed the fuck out. And then you're just some stranger that's probably the 18th stranger that's called in that day, but you are the one that gets the credit card above everyone else. That's like, wrapping your head around that made it so hard for me like to get confident that could happen. And as soon as I got that first card, I realized that this is where I need to be focusing. This is what's making me the money. If I can just pick up the phone, predictably hit a certain amount of numbers, because right back then I used to think sales was a number game, and it still is, but I don't like to play with that mythology.
We talk about, we'll save that for later. We'll table that. We'll keep going.
Okay, got you. And I just picked up the phone, hit the numbers, and I get cards. So I was like, this is what I need to do. And I got really good at it pretty quickly, because it was kind of just like that survival trait. I'm really good at learning things really fast, typically because I put myself in a position where I have to learn it or I'm going to drown. It's like that sink or swim thing. That's how I learn things the best. So I did that. That's like that's the beginning, right, of how I started. The mid-level was an agency owner started seeing me close deals for Facebook on Facebook. So they started asking if I could close deals for them. And I was like, this is perfect, because I hate running ads. I hate running an agency. I like selling. So I would close deals for them. I'd tell them I'd want to take 50% of the first month, which I don't get why they agreed to, yes, but I was doing that. So I was taking 50% of the retainer of that first month. So I was getting a good, decent chunk for just hopping on the phone, not even having to set the appointment in the first place. Doing that, and Robb found me, where he wanted me to help out with his program, an agency in a box, and then a new program, the Art of Sales, right, where I helped out agency owners with their sales process. So that was like my mid-level. And then my high level, to just kind of summarize it all together and bring it full circle, is I realized I wasn't really satisfied with what I was doing at Art of Sales and everything like that. I loved working with Robb. It was like really hard because he's like my best friend. So it was hard to like peel away, but I feel like I didn't hit that new level yet where I should be teaching. And I feel like a lot of people teach way too early. And Robb obviously believes in me and everything like that. So he'd be like, you have value to share. And he was absolutely right. But I wanted more value to share, right? So I said, I'm going to humble myself I'm gonna take myself out of this program. I'm gonna upgrade how I sell, and then I can come back and I can help teach more. So I went and did that, and I met with somebody who has an agency growth offer. He saw me killing agency deals while I was trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. I was selling left and right. Got a new agency from 0 to 10K collected in the first 30 days, which isn't like anything impressive, but I had numbers like that. He saw that. He said, "What do you want to try high ticket?" And I was like, "This is what I've been looking for, right? That next level." So I tried it and I closed 102,000 that first month, and then everything took off from there. So that's like the higher level where I'm at. So those were the 3 stages to summarize your point.
Yeah. So at the beginning there, and guys, I'll let you know somebody that goes all in. It's not that you have to go all in on everything. There's a lot of ways to do something, 1,000 ways to skin a cat. But what I will say is that I loved that about Temple when we first met, was that I knew Temple for probably 2 months. And then I was like, we got to do something together. And like, I just remember I was like, yo, I'm flying into Kansas City. We're doing some shit. And I just remember like, you're like, all right. And like, just up and left. And I was like, oh my God, who is this dude?
Yeah, I remember I texted you the other day. I was like, it's kind of crazy to think this all started because you texted some kid that you knew for 2 months to fly to your city.
So funny, man. And yeah, so it's been pretty amazing progression watching you grow in this space. And I completely agree. It's a totally different learning experience whenever you are learning from somebody currently in the trenches full time, right? It's so different whenever you're in it part time, and then like let's say you close 2 days a week, because you're having to do so much context switching. You're not in that constant flow state. Mm-hmm. So to learn from somebody that's constantly in the trenches, I feel like is just a different learning experience, which is exciting to like hear these things from you because they are so fluent. What I'd like to hear next is for the people that are selling right now and you're closing between, let's say that you're in like the $20,000 to like $100,000 range, right? In sales per month. So I'd love to hear what obstacles you ran into as you were making that transition from like, because you said before you don't play with the mythology of like it's a numbers game, which I completely agree with. And I'm assuming that change in perception from you saying this isn't a numbers game, this is a fucking strategy, right? And then these are the things I look for in order to consistently get me over 100,000. I'd love to hear from you what that was. Like, what obstacles did you run into? And then when did you know you had it figured out?
Yeah, definitely. I want to clarify that statement too, because I know there's going to be those people that hop on like, if you don't track your fucking numbers, you don't know your closing percentage. Like, of course, numbers are important, especially when you're running ads and you're running a team. Numbers are actually important, absolutely important. Excuse me. What I mean by that is you don't want to approach it with like, it doesn't matter how good my skill set is. If I just call this many people, I'll close this many deals. Like that's what I mean by it's not a numbers game. And I don't like to play that way. So it's interesting when you say that. I think the thing that took me, like really had me take off fast, is I approached sales in 2 different ways when it came to high ticket: unprofessional and as a coach, which is kind of like weird how it spins. But what I mean by that is when I approached it as a coach, I was not coaching people what to do on the sales call. Like, you need to go out and do this step by step, because if you do that, they're gonna have like they're gonna feel like what they have what they need and hop off the call. Obviously, I was coaching them how to think, how to work through problems, how to like work through their own fears, how to work through their own self-doubt. Kind of like a therapist, if you want to stretch it that far. But I was coaching them how to think on how to think on what they're doing. So that was the huge thing that took off for me. The second thing that took off for me was being a lot more unprofessional. So there's a saying by Jordan Belfort, which is like, be sharp as a tack, right? Like, we've all heard of that. And though I think that is, I'm not saying it's bad. I think there's a better way to do it. And I like doing that by just being normal and sounding human. So like, I'll put in ums, uhs, likes, maybes, like they can tell I'm thinking on the call. I will throw slang in there where I'll be swearing, obviously dependent on your market, hopping on the call, be more careful with that. But I'd be very more approached as a person and unprofessional. I call it like unprofessional selling, opposed to hopping on, being sharp as a tack, instantly asking the next question as soon as they're done talking, and just being salesy in general, which is gross.
So what I like to look at is, so you dove into something there, and before I ask this question, do you want to describe to the market how you define sophisticated and unsophisticated buyer before I ask this next question?
Yeah, definitely. So this was a huge thing that took off for me too on how I sold, was realizing there's two different people. And though this is becoming more well-known, it's kind of funny because a lot of people don't know. I just was helping someone the other day that does 40K a month in sales, and they didn't like understand this concept fully. So it's interesting. But that said, pretty much how I define is there's two different levels of buyers: sophisticated and unsophisticated buyers. Sophisticated buyers have their basic needs met. What I mean by that is they have a roof over their head. They like where they live. They're not enslaved to someone else. They work for themselves successfully. They have their finances down. They can pay for everything they need: restaurants, clothes, whatever. They're not strapped on cash. They don't have to worry about cash. And they're a lot more sophisticated, right? They've done well for themselves successfully. They've gone out, created an action plan, followed it, and completed it successfully. That's a sophisticated buyer. So putting that more tangibly, people that are already doing like 50K a month with their business, right? That's a sophisticated buyer. People doing 100K, et cetera. An unsophisticated buyer is somebody that does not have their basic needs met. So typically, these are the people you will find on a make money offer. Someone that, lives with their mom, their parents, has a shitty apartment, they're with roommates, has a job and they hate it, can't pay for their healthcare, whatever. They don't have their basic needs met, not eating as good as they could. That is the unsophisticated buyer. So how you sell to each needs to be very different, right? Because if you're selling to some dude who's 21 that just wants to make a shit ton of money and hates his life, you don't want to sell the same way to someone who's making 100,000 a month trying to make 500,000 a month, right? It's not going to vibe well. So that is the difference between unsophisticated and sophisticated buyers. I always tell people, you can obviously tell depending on the money they're making, that kind of thing, but really just look at the offer. So for example, I know a lot of you are in the agency space here at SMMAs, or just agencies in general. If you have an agency that is helping people, if you have like vocab, like get clients, pack out your calendar, get 30 clients in 30 days, that kind of thing, you're going to be attracting unsophisticated buyer, right? Because unsophisticated buyers are trying to get money and trying to get clients in, whereas sophisticated buyers are going to be focused on scaling and having better systems. So if you took that same verbiage and you changed it and have a better applicant process, have a better appointment setting process, like focus on scaling, right? Those are going to be attracting sophisticated buyers because they're focused on the next level, not that first level. I think I ranted a little bit, but that's the difference between the sophisticated and unsophisticated. One's successful, one's not.
No, I love that, dude. Great definition. And guys, we're going to make sure that we get you as much information out of this interview as possible. Like I said, I've known Temple for a long time, and 3 years. That's pretty. I mean, we're coming on. That's a long time. Now that I think about it.
It's a minute.
Yeah, it's a minute. So I want to make sure that you guys can get everything that we can out of this interview with Temple. So what I want to go over now that we understand sophisticated, unsophisticated buyer, and if you guys, I would highly suggest to go back and listen to that one part if you're trying to figure out who you're selling to. So I'm not going to steal Temple's thunder, but I just want to give an example to what he just said, because we had somebody join into our program for us to hire them a sales rep. They're doing 250,000 a month, hopped on with our onboarding team. And all they said to our onboarding team, because, we give them access to the main program and stuff like that. All they said to our onboarding team was, I don't care about the logins, just get us somebody good. And that's all they said, and the call was over. Versus who we're about to talk about now, the unsophisticated buyer. So this is going to be, you said earlier, coaching people how to think. So now that we understand sophisticated, unsophisticated, I'd like to hear from you about, when it comes to the unsophisticated buyer and coaching them how to think, what are some main commonalities that you see talking to that person, and then how do you address it? Because that's going to be typically I'll tell you what, I'll let you say like what the typical price range is for that. Yeah. I'll let you dive into details.
Definitely. Typical price range as far as the offer that you'd sell to unsophisticated buyer?
Yeah. And then like the way that you're changing them, like coaching them how to think.
Yeah, I'd say it's usually around like 5,000, 6,000. I have sold at 10,000, offered a lot of unsophisticated buyers though, but I'd say past that, like it's more sophisticated.
I would agree.
Cool. So yeah, that's unsophisticated buyers need a lot of hand holding because um, they don't know what they're doing. If they knew what they're doing, they wouldn't be in the position they are, right? So we need to realize is they're following a recurring pattern over and over and over again. That recurring pattern could either be starting something and then stopping because they get shiny object syndrome, or it could be wanting to do something, getting so close to doing it and backing out because of fear. But it's a consistent recurring pattern they're running into. So what you need to do is coach them on that pattern, get them to be aware of it, and then play into who they want to be in breaking that pattern, right? Breaking that mold, just like a coach would. That's how I would do it. So unsophisticated buyers, they're a lot more likely to back out at the end of a call. Oh, the call could be going great. They'd be like, this is fucking amazing. This is exactly what I need. And at the end, they're like, yeah. And then they back out and they're like, maybe I could just wait. I could do this 3 months from now. And you always hear that. Typically it's because they're more of an unsophisticated buyer, right? Because they're backing out because of fear, because they can't commit. That's been a consistent thing. Because running a SMMA, running Amazon, whatever, it's not fucking rocket science. Just do what the person that is, as long as you're not buying into some bullshit guru, is saying to do, and you'll get there. It's not rocket science. So typically it's an issue on their end with the lack of commitment. And that's something you need to focus on with them.
Such a good answer. This is gonna be a great video, guys, to go back and rewatch just to listen to like who you're talking to. So many people focus. I mean, would you agree that so many people focus on the tactical shit that once they get that shit, they have no idea what to do with it? It's like getting a Ferrari and somebody showing up like, got you a Ferrari for your birthday, put it in the driveway. You don't know how to drive stick.
Yeah.
So just sit there and you look like an idiot because you got a Ferrari sitting in your driveway and you can't do anything with it.
Yeah. It's funny. I like the in-between between tactic and like more like philosophy and esoteric mythology is frames. Is like, that's like the perfect blend where you have something that's tactical you can use on calls, but it's not following a strict format where you have to use it a certain way. It's flexible and you can bend it depending on the situation.
I love that. So, yeah, that's great advice. So what I want to do next is get into now, if you're watching this and let's say you're closing into like the $100,000 per month range in sales, what I want to talk about now is how do you address the sophisticated buyer? Because you'll get to that $100,000 range pretty quick if you're selling a $10 to $100,000 program. So when you talk to a sophisticated buyer, how do you approach that? And I'll get into another question after. We'll do one at a time. So
definitely. Yeah, I guess I should have touched back on the unsophisticated buyer. With unsophisticated buyers, you want to sell a lot on emotion, a lot on pain. Like for example, I've just recently joined a really kick-ass team that is doing $1 million a week in sales. And I've got 3 offers I'm selling with them, but one of the offers is a high ticket fitness offer. The reason why I'm selling that is because I heard this great quote by the leader on the team. His name is Matt Ryder. I'll just shout him out. And he said, anybody, and like, take this with like a grain of salt because it's not anybody, but once you get in a high ticket, anybody can sell like a $10,000 business growth offer to somebody that understands the value of ROI and the value of investing in themselves. That's going to make them more money. It's a fucking no-brainer if you just know what you're doing as far as high ticket sales. Try selling a $5,000 fitness offer to some Joe Smuck that isn't making that much money in Ohio, that doesn't know the value of investing in themselves and has been, unfit for the most of their life. It's a very, very different sale. So I've been learning a lot with that kind of sale that it's very emotional driven, very pains driven, where a sophisticated buyer, you do not want to touch on that pain and emotion, at least in the way you would usually with an emotional buyer. Reason being, if you like ask, how does that make you feel? Like those kind of questions, they're going to be so turned off. They're going to know what you're doing because you got to realize sophisticated buyer knows sales. Typically anyone who's a successful business owner has learned sales of some kind. So you can't use those tactics anymore. You got to upgrade your skill set. So you want to focus a lot more on the growth and the opportunity, opposed to the pain. And the way I get the pain is just by asking really, really good, hard fact-based questions. So I see a lot in the discovery. People ask very like basic questions, like how are you setting appointments right now? cool, got you. Like, how many clients do you have right now? Like, very just like basic and overview. You want to like find one thing that's that sticking point where they're kind of like stuck, and dive into that majorly. So for appointment setting, let's just say, sorry, I keep hitting minimize. For appointment setting, let's just say that's their problem, right? Well, then we want to dive deep into that. Like, how many appointments did you set last week? What about the week before? What about the week before that? What about the week before that? Is this consistent for you? How often, how many do you close from that? Is that the usual average for you? When's the last time you felt packed from a completely full calendar? What is your confidence level of predictability for this calendar? Like, diving deep into those, because there's a great thing. I forgot who I heard this from, but if you ask somebody, and this is how you get the pain with a sophisticated buyer. If you ask somebody, are you in debt? And they say yes. And then you say, okay, how much in debt are you? Them saying I'm 100K in debt, they're going to feel that fucking pain. They're going to bring it out and feel it. And that's more gospel because it's coming from them, right? It's not you telling. So there's a saying, it's ask, don't tell. So if you ask questions like that are hard fact-based in their business, getting profits, because a lot of people will ask like, what are you doing per month? And they say 50K and you think they're doing fucking great, but they're actually only making like 10K profit or bringing 10K home to their personal bank account. Or they're even in the red. So like diving into those numbers, asking those hard fact-based numbers and getting the real truth, because the reason is they're on the call because they need help. They're not on the call just to bullshit their time. They value their time. So if you ask those hard fact-based questions, you will get the pain and get them to come out by just giving you the data. And that's how I approach sophisticated buyers sell a lot more. It's a lot more logical, hard fact-based questions where I can get them to bring out their own pain and focus on the growth and the opportunity. I think I ranted. I don't know if I answered your question per T. I'm sorry.
Oh, you did. That's really good. So I'm going to ask another one here. I just want to address David Gachet, we're live in the Facebook group right now. So you guys are watching this on YouTube. I go live in my Facebook group occasionally with some rock stars like Temple. And David asked a question here, which we will address towards the end of the call, on how to reach out to prospects and sell them during pandemics. So if you're watching this, we're coming out of the time of COVID-19. This is May 2020. So we'll address that question in a second. I'm actually not even going to add my feedback. I know as a company, we have grown 20 to 65% month over month during the pandemic. So we just kind of ignored it. But I want to hear Temple's, because Temple's been consistently selling these numbers as well. So we'll get into what Temple's doing. A question I want to ask though, and I want to address this because if there's people, I mean, we've had a few dozen people watching live this whole time. I want to let you guys know that just because you clear $100,000 a month in sales 1 month does not make you successful. It makes you lucky. What makes you successful is to do it month over month over month and have growth over growth over growth. So what I want to get into right now is, Temple, I'd love to hear about what your daily habits are that create consistent wins for you to be able to crush $100,000 per month in sales consistently.
I love this. I've actually been blending stoicism and closing into the two. Reason being, I think I heard this quote from Iman, is you don't have personal problems, you have, completely butchered that. Sorry, Iman. You don't have business problems, you have personal problems that manifest inside of your business. And I think it's the same way when it comes to sales. A lot of times is you don't have like sales call problems in your technique or your skill level. You have problems outside of the world that are coming into your sales process. So a lot of times, for example, if you're getting a lot of I need to think about it, I'll look at that closer's life, and typically they're like going through some shit in their personal life, and they have like a lot of uncertainty. Either their girlfriend has broke up with them or whatever, and it's causing them to have uncertainty, and that uncertainty is showing up on the call, and they're getting I need to think about it now. And I'm not saying if you get a I need to think about it, you are your girlfriend broke up with you and you're a loser. But for example, like I think the team I was on, one of the closers, I was hearing this story that he was doing very, very well, and he was selling consistently, just hitting record numbers, doing great. Then out of nowhere, he just started getting I need to think about it on every single call. And they asked him what was going on, and he was going through a divorce. So it shows up in his life. So I'm really firm believer, a lot of your sales problems, they manifest from your personal life. So I love that you asked that question, because that's very important. I noticed the moment I get off my daily habits, my closing percentage goes down. And I don't change my sales process. I don't change how I'm doing the sale. My prospects didn't change. There was no variables other than me changing myself. So those problems, or those those what's a good word for that? Those things I just do daily, since for better lack of vocabulary. It's pretty basic. I have a morning formula. I think everyone knows what this is. I think it originates from Sam Ovens, but it's pretty much where you get up in the morning. It talks about yourself in the third person of where you want to be, but in a present state. So you read it and it's like you're reading a present book of your life of where you want to be. And it's really, really powerful. And you can tie images, affirmations, etc. And I read through that every single day and I'm constantly refining it. Something I've been doing is really diving into stoicism. So at the end of the night, I have a journal that I'll go through and I'll write, who do I want to be? I write that in a present state. And then I say, what person do I need to become to get closer to that? And then I'll write that down. And then I'll say, what did I do good today? And I'll write that down, because a lot of times when people like do self-reflection, they're just kind of beating themselves up. And if you're beating yourselves up, you're never going to do better, because just like a dog, if you're training a dog, and this is kind of a rough analogy, but it's the truth. If you're training a dog and you're just constantly like, you did this bad dog, and you're never rewarding the good traits with treats, that dog is always going to fuck up, because it doesn't get that good behavior brain, that dopamine triggered in their brain to do good things. So they don't have a incentive to do good things. So it's the same thing with yourself. When you're going through that journal, you want to write what you did good, like moments in the day where you reflected, where you could have like maybe acted out of irrationality or anger, but you chose to stay calm and present and not emotionally tied to your answer. Like, you want to reward that, because then your dopamine fires off and your brain's going to remember that you're rewarding yourself with good behavior and do it again in the future. And then the last question I do is where is moments that I could have improved today? And then I'll reflect my day, things that, like, if I answered a text in an angry way, or I reacted to something somebody said, I'll write that down, and I'll remember the next day when I encounter that situation again, I'll like, well, I don't want to write this down in my fucking journal that I fucked up twice. So I'm going to work on that. So obviously I work out, I eat good. Workout has dived down. I lost actually 20 pounds of muscle since quarantine. So heartbroken.
I'm with you.
I worked so hard for that. But it is what it is. But yeah, stuff like that. If you just stay consistent, you don't need to be like crazy, but if you stay consistent with little habits like that, it helps your sales process tremendously. Can't talk.
Man, that is so incredibly powerful. And so I hope that anybody watching this live, whether you're live now or you're watching the replay, that you guys can really sit back and evaluate, hey, do I really need, because we see this all the time. Like, a lot of the time, it's not that people suck at sales. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's always room for improvement. But we notice more times than not that they're just not giving themselves the chance to be good. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't just mean like having, an answer or rebuttal to an objection. I mean, like, really reflect, guys. Are you doing even half of what Temple just listed out there? And if you're not, maybe like take some time to implement that and just see what happens. Confidence closes. And if this is going to help your confidence, I mean, that could really work in your favor. So, and I agree with everything Temple's saying here. I do the same thing, have a morning routine, and it's religious. Not that it's based on religion. I'm like religious to it. It's a saying. Anyway, I hope you guys can put that together. So what else, Temple, can you like provide us, or what other questions before we answer David's or anybody else that asks a question here, that you would say are key components to being successful consistently at this level?
I'd say the thing that helped for me the most was getting your calls reviewed, or listening to other people's call breakdowns and close recordings. So trainings are absolutely good, but you want to hit a point where you stop doing that and you either get your calls critiqued or listen to other people's call critiques and listen to them consistently. And typically that person is making the same mistakes you are when it comes to like brevity or cadence or whatever. And it absolutely helps your process to do that. I know that's a really basic answer, and mostly because I'm focused on answering David's question, because it's a really good question. But I'd say call critiques and call reviews are what took me from that good level to like great.
I love that. Debrief the good, debrief the bad. I don't think that's simple advice. I don't think hardly anyone actually does it.
Yeah, fair.
Great advice.
It's funny. The best advice is the most simple that no one does, right?
Facts. You know, actually, can I say something funny about that real quick?
No.
A lot of the time, nobody's just asking simple questions. I actually completely ignored you. A lot of the time, people just aren't asking simple questions to the stuff that people have just normalized. Like I asked my kids the other day, we were eating breakfast and I asked my son a hard question. I was just asking them hard questions. And I was like, what makes me your dad? And to us, because we normalize that, like, well, I mean, biology anyway. So normalize it. But his answer was, well, you were the first person to see us when we were born. And then I asked them again because I wanted to hear my daughter's answer. And I was like, well, what if somebody else saw you born? Would that still make me your dad? And then she's like, well, yeah, because you love us more than anybody else. And I was like, see, you guys have hardly ever do we think that something that is simple is simple. It's not true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I hope that that's a great example for you guys, because as adults, we understand, wow, I'm their dad. But most of the time, people don't understand that simple thing.
100%.
So what I want to get into next is answering David's question. He said, how do you reach out to a prospect, and how do you close a prospect during this pandemic, which, you know, it's COVID-19 right now, May 2020. And when, you know, do this when companies are keeping their money so close to them. So how would you respond to that?
Definitely. So we're definitely going to play into like identity frames. Because I mean, most companies that we know today that we're using on a daily market start in recession. So the recession isn't the problem, it's their mindset of how they're approaching it, right? So you want to ask yourself, how do you design your pitch in your call to take advantage of this? And just like judo or jiu-jitsu, use that momentum so that you can use it to enroll other people. So for people that don't do judo or jiu-jitsu, when people come at you, you use their momentum and turn it into something against them, right? It's the same thing. We want to use this momentum of this outside world and turn it into something against them. So all we have to do is research and create data points that we need, that we can use throughout their call. So we can come with the facts, because if you come with the facts, no one can fucking stop you. How are you gonna move someone down with facts, right? So what I did is I did my research, and I figured out data I could bring to the call, and I found this, right? And I actually have this pulled up because I was using it. I don't run into these objections because of the marketing team I've done so well, but I was at first in my old offer. So I found out that a business that survives in a bear market and takes advantage of it, the business must possess these certain traits. This is like an article I got from like a Stanford website. One, they need to have cash flow to make investments. Two, the business needs to be low capital intensive and low capital requirements. And three, it needs to be a must-have product or service. Those are all the businesses that have these fundamental traits that survive a bear market. Does that make sense, Rob?
Yep.
Cool. So why am I looking at these facts? Because people are so in fear and scrambled with everything going on with the coronavirus, recession, whatever, that if I hop on the call and I'm grounded, I know my facts, I know my data, and I analyze it to create solutions better than they can, they're going to trust me as an authority and an expert, right? And the other part of this is, like, if I drop like influential figures in the problem at hand, it creates a certain emotion. So like, for example, if I name drop like Warren Buffett, it's going to create a certain respect and knowledge in finances that they're going to feel on the call. So what I want to do is I want to tell a story at first, right? And this is once they brought up their doubt and everything like that. And I want to tell a story, for example, like how Warren Buffett acquired a massive business, which was the Burlingame or Burlington, Northern Santa Fe. So in 2009, when the market was in terror, Warren Buffett like acquired this massive business and like threw that all in. If you guys don't know what 2009 is, it comes right after 2008, which was like this huge depression, right? So it can get them to see a perspective that they didn't have. And they can't argue with me because they would be arguing with Warren Buffett, and they know they would look stupid if they did, right? So it's a quote like I'd want to bring up on the call, right? Like, you want to be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful, right? So if I can ask that to them, like, so right now, or like, are others fearful or are others greedy? And they're going to be like, well, others are fearful right now, right? And I say, okay, so given that's the case, what would Warren Buffett do? And they would be like, well, you'd probably take advantage of it and everything like that. I'm like, okay. I mean, like, do you understand what types of businesses best handle bear markets? And they're like, no, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, we're looking for a few things, right? I'm like, do you got like a pen and paper? Might help to like write this out. And this was when I was selling an agency growth offer, which was 10K. And I would say, well, usually we're looking for cash flow for investments, right? Which almost anyone can acquire through 0% business credit. Low capital requirements, which I'd say is another huge trait of the bear market that the Stanford article published, is that business needs have low capital requirements. And I'd say any business that can run off a laptop is pretty much as low capital as you can get, right? And like, yeah. And I'll say, and also it's a must-have product or service is the third point that businesses need to have if they're going to survive a bear market. So, usually anything like luxury is going to take a hit. If it's still a must-have product or service, it's going to perform well. Even in a bear market, people need a roof over their head, they need food, that kind of thing, right? Now, what's the number one problem every business faces? They need customers, right? Now, what problem is bigger during a recession than any other problem? Self-explanatory. So if it doesn't cost you a lot of money to get started, and everyone needs your help getting customers, and you have access to 0%, I mean, just what kind of opportunity does that starting an agency have at this point in time? Like the other businesses that make sense is like starting a coaching business. The challenge of it is usually, coaching is not a must-have, but that would be like another solution depending on the type of coaching you're doing. It's great. It's great offer. So you can see how I'm like steer them away from the agency thing because I didn't want it to become too salesy. So I steered them away from us right there and gave them a different reason that they can like look into that obviously they're not going to look into. So now they don't feel like I'm just talking in just my interest. They feel like I'm talking with facts and information. And another way I can take this or add on to this is talking about opportunity, right? So I can talk about how a couple years ago, agencies weren't the hot thing. Affiliate marketing was. Or so back then, starting an agency was a piece of cake as not many people were focused on it. It was less saturated. Now everyone's trying to start an agency. But now that the recession is coming in, most agencies aren't starting up or they're even dropping out. So now the playing field is leveled again, which leaves massive opportunity for you, aka the prospect, to take advantage of that, right? Like another zigzag. So I could sell opportunity based off that. And then I can come with more facts. So you want to know some other companies that were started during like hardship and economic recessions? IBM, CNN, FedEx, IHOP, MTV, Burger King, Apple. Like I could just go on and on and on of what they started during these economic hardships. So then I can just go back and hit them with more research and facts if I need to, right? So yeah, like there was this interesting study in the University of LA, and basically what they discovered in the study, they called them like survivalist entrepreneurs. It's a specific breed where they aren't like innovating or anything. Instead, they enter industries with low education requirements and small startup requirements that consumers still need despite hard times, which is obviously I would then tie into agencies. So for you guys, because I know that's kind of a long-winded rant, I want to summarize it down. You want to do your research. You want to hit them with the facts. You want to drop respected figures and their quotes, like, right, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. and you want to name drop other companies that started during recessions. So that is how I approach this, and it works very well, because how are you going to argue with Warren Buffett or this article from Stanford or this article from University of LA? It's not coming from me, so they can't argue. It's coming from a third party that is credible, but more than both of us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you guys are wondering how you argue it, you don't. You just don't. So that's the answer to that question, that rhetorical question. Anyway, guys, I know we've been on here an hour now. And obviously everybody learned something incredibly helpful, because there's a lot of phenomenal information dropped here. So we promised if you waited till the very end, we'd give you 2 things. Number 1, Temple Naylor's middle name. Number 2, a place to find Temple Naylor. So this way, if you want to continue to learn more from him, see what he has going on, because you got a pretty killer group, so that you're going to be doing more trainings in, things like that. And I don't bring a lot of salespeople into this group, guys. So if I do, then, you know, obviously they're doing something right, and I definitely recommend them, or put salespeople on my YouTube channel. In fact, the only other salesperson on my YouTube channel is Eli Wild, who sold, you know, $100 million for Tony Robbins.
Peace.
So, yep, super good. You know, we still learn stuff from him. So Temple, 2 things. What is your middle name, and where can we find you?
Yeah, my middle name is Cerulean, and where you can find me, I actually created a Facebook group where I'm gonna be giving out like free trainings weekly, and not bullshit free trainings, but like really, really in-depth, like tactical and philosophical information that you can use on your sales call. So doing that for fun, and see where that goes. So if you want to join that, I will throw that link in the comments of this video, and you can join.
And for YouTube, where can people find you?
Like Temple Naylor pops up first thing. You'll see me.
Perfect. And you guys can just go to my friends list on Facebook too, and just look it up, and you'll be able to find them there as well, in case for whatever reason it's not showing up in the search bar. Cool. So I appreciate you guys. Temple, thanks for joining us here. Super great information. Nice to have you back on the group. It's been like a while. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate being here. It was fun.
Yep, definitely. All right. Hope that was great. Everybody have an amazing, kick-ass month. Break some records, as Temple would say, record sales months. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.